Welcome to the Family Skeptical, Parenting Through Nonbelief.
We're a married atheist couple raising two wonderful, strange children. We ask big questions, dissect weird parenting moments, and examine how society ignores or misrepresents families like ours. If you're any stripe of nonbeliever who's involved in raising children, welcome. You are our people.
Our kids have heard all our swears, but yours might not have. So be thoughtful if there are young people listening with you.
Happy New Year!
We made it through the holidays!
We made it through 2024.
We did. Yeah. It is pretty amazing. We did more traveling around the holidays this year than we have ever done before.
We bought a car the Friday before Christmas, and over the subsequent 2 weeks put 2,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I'm really glad we had a new vehicle because it's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It was amazing. We moved to a place where we were closer to members of your family than we've ever been before. And part of what we were excited about was getting to see those people. And we actually made it happen. So that was...
I was very proud that we made the decision, even though it was more travel at the end of a long year, because it just felt like such a perfect capstone, like taking advantage of where we live now, as opposed to just making an excuse, which would have felt, honestly, it would have felt pretty crappy because then we would have had the opportunity, but we would have just let it go. And then we would have perhaps gotten to a routine of making excuses about not taking advantage of where we live now, geographically speaking. So I wanted to plant a flag, as it were, in us doing this more, doing more road trips, seeing more family in different places. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And it was amazing to see how well the boys did, because on that second trip, they were up like much later at night than they are used to on multiple nights and kind of managed not to become complete monsters. And it was...
I didn't know we were going with this. Yeah, they did great. They transitioned to our time zone and more kind of boring routine, I guess, back to the grindstone, as it were, pretty well. No notes. They did a great job.
One thing I always look forward to when we're visiting your parents is some of your mom's best friends are a couple, and we try to see them whenever we visit your parents. And I was just, kind of thinking about the year and being in this new place and trying to make connections. It was so amazing seeing them. They are a couple that's been together a very long time. They've traveled the world. They're just really cool guys. So much of our family is just amazing and loves on our kids so much, and we're so lucky. But I was really taken aback again when we had lunch with them, because we were sitting in your parents' living room and chatting, and one of the guys was talking to Go, and Go had made these, he had embroidered on burlap and made these sort of ornament decoration things for your parents. And your mom's friend was talking to him, and just the amount of attention and respect that he gave Go in that moment, even as a child, is so distinctive.
To the point where he was asking him, "Oh, did you do this specific kind of stitch that I'd never heard of?" And Go was like, "Yeah, we were learning that one." It was so endearing.
And looking at the two different kinds of burlap and asking him which was easier and which he liked doing more. And it wasn't any specific thing, but it was just the care and attention and respect and kind of interest given. I think, like that's hard to do with other adults, to like really give your whole care and attention to another person and really listen and put yourself in their shoes and be like 100% in the moment in a conversation. And then to see an adult do that with a child, there's just something really, really special about
it. It was a truly magical moment. I remember looking over at you and you watching them talk to the boys. It was just, yes.
And then all throughout lunch, just sort of seeing that care given to everybody in that conversation, it was a moment where, it just made me think about how I want to show up in the world and
sure,
how I want to build community and like how I can be maybe more present in that way. Because I don't know, like, I feel like it's not until you see it in somebody that
Were you intimidated?
No.
Okay.
No, but I just think it's like, I don't know.
Like,
at
I
least
got to
for
step
me,
my game up sort of intimidation, not like negative. You know what I mean? Like, wow, they're just so much better at being human beings than we are.
Yeah, a little bit, but not in an intimidating way. Just in a like, wow, you can be like this kind of way. It was more inspirational than intimidating. Okay. So yeah, that was just special. And I love how much, and I think the boys really feel it too, because the last Christmas we were with them, we actually went to their place. And after we left, I think Go said something to the effect of like, oh, they're my best friends now.
As
do you remember that?
To do. Yes.
Do you remember that? And I was, and like, well, probably not, sweetheart, but, but I totally get why he said it. Because it's just like when you're around people who exude that kind of care and respect, like, yeah, I just think it like changes how you think about things. And I think, so many of the podcasts I listen to have been having episodes about, feeling lonely and how to make friends and community. And what a lot of them say is, you have to be really intentional and reach out and do things that feel uncomfortable. And so having listened to all of those and then sort of to be in the presence of people who I feel like just either they've worked really hard at it or it comes very easily to them, kind of exude what you need to make authentic connection.
They're Quakers. Maybe we just have to convert to being Quakers.
No, I don't think
so. Maybe
it's
a Quaker thing.
Maybe it is a Quaker thing. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. It was just really special. But yeah, thinking about the new year, I wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions and goal setting.
Love it. I mean, longtime listeners of the show know my stance on resolutions in general, but my resolution stance has actually changed a little bit.
Yeah?
Which is, I know, very interesting because I haven't discussed this with you, but I figured it would be good fodder for the podcast. So here we go.
Oh, I'm so fast. So just to sort of lay things out, I feel like looking at resolutions with a skeptical lens, it is clear that the sort of traditional New Year's resolutions tend to be fairly ineffective for actually creating change in people's lives. They usually don't last very long. And I think if you sort of look at all the experts, it's pretty agreed that goal setting is not super easy and is actually quite difficult to make change in people's lives that way. So how did you think about it, and how has your thinking changed?
So again, longtime listeners, you know what I'm about to say. I'll sound like a broken record. I abhor the idea of a New Year's resolution. I abhor it for the same reason why Mom's just said. It is not the way you should go about making substantive change in your life. If you set a New Year's resolution that ends up being like this dynamo of positivity in your life, then you are very lucky. You basically hit the decision-making lottery. It is itself very just wishful thinking for the most part. Resolutions, if you boil them down to being to their most effective state, they are decisions. So like you just said, when done well, you treat it as if it's any other decision that's thought through, where you have a specific set of goals. Perhaps you have short and long-term goals, the short-term goals feeding into the long-term goals. You have deadlines for yourself. You have laid out the actual activities that you're going to perform and how you're going to perform them and when and at what frequency, because that's how you're actually going to create that substantive, long-lasting change. So the whole resolution thing, the joke in the fitness community about people like the new year, new you sort of thing. And the business I was in years ago had a whole new year, new you shtick, because it's a tried and true sales tactic, and people fall for it every year because everybody wants to get into shape. Everybody sees this grand, arbitrary, seasonal turning of the page, and they just run with it. And, you know, I don't want to say there's a sucker born any minute, but we all get lured into it. It's very easy to get lured into it, to think that there's this, you know, this big party and a changing of a number means that now you can be a new person. When, you know, as they say, every day is a new beginning. Every moment is a new beginning. All it takes is the desire. And that's what I want to talk about, is that more important than a resolution is to resolve that you need to change, or that you want to grow. And that you boil it down to that urge. Because if you hold on to that urge, regardless of what the specific goals are, then I think that is the more important thing to do if you're going to have anything remotely close to a New Year's resolution. Because if you get into the mode of, I am going to do this thing this year, and then it doesn't pan out as you want, what do? If you have no backup plan, like if you don't have a way of pivoting in that goal, then it's going to fizzle and you're going to end up exactly where you are, or worse, the next year. If instead that goal doesn't pan out for whatever reason, but you have an underlying drive to change, you will pivot. You will see the value in not holding so rigidly to one goal or one set of goals or one methodology. Because you have that drive to grow, you, in pivoting, are going to find another solution that could very well be better. And that is skepticism, for my money, one of the best ways you can apply it in your own life. Whatever the situation is that you need to improve, you try something, it doesn't work, you try another thing, you refine your approach, you do the same thing again, but differently. You do something wholly different, whatever, but you keep taking those steps forward. Sometimes they're leaps, sometimes they're stumbles, sometimes you hit a wall. You didn't know there was going to be a wall there, but now you know there's a wall there. What do? Whatever the challenge is in your life, I would personally, this isn't an advice show. I have no credibility other than the fact that I'm a human being who has made many, many mistakes and has gotten better at learning from them. The way I learn best from them is to have that Kaizen approach of improve a little bit every day. And that means that you will get closer to your goals, even if you're not fully aware of what your end goal will be after you pivot away from what you think your goal is right now. And it's that drive to grow that I think is more important to cultivate. And so if you're going to do anything in the new year, just make a simple mantra for yourself. Start journaling. Give yourself something to think about at the beginning of every day that doesn't even necessarily have to be, I'm going to get that goal by this date. It doesn't even have to be something like that. It could be like, how am I going to improve as a person today? It could be, instead of picking up your phone first thing and checking your email, you roll over and ask your spouse, how did you sleep? It could be, you get out of bed, you check on your kids, you make your bed, and then you check your phone. It could be something really simple that engages you better with your life and moves the needle on a grander set of improvements than just spinning your wheel, going to social media, going down that little sort of like dopamine cycle that is so easy to get sucked into at the beginning of every day, and letting it define your activities through the day. That's it.
So, okay, I have questions.
Please.
You said that you abhor New Year's resolutions, which is a very strong word.
Yes.
So do you feel like you were ever caught in that trap of trying, like, does that come from a place of having a bad experience, or is it more just an intellectual stance?
It is a combination of things. Now, bear in mind, 2002. Yes. January 1st, 2002. I gave up smoking cigarettes and I gave up hard drugs.
Wow.
And I've done neither since. Cold turkey on both. I am very lucky in that regard because I know I had it easier than some, but it wasn't like it was easy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only time in my life that I can think back on a New Year's resolution having any sort of weight. And then, and this is all, of course, this is all anecdotal. This is just me and my life, right?
Yeah.
Until I start teaching for a decade and a half, 6 or 7 days a week. And then my data set grows exponentially, like logarithmically. And then I realized that the best time to change is 5 seconds ago. The best way to do it is one small step at a time. The best way to frame it in your life is a series of short-term goals and long-term goals. The best way to stay consistent with it is to speak it out into your community and have your community hold you accountable. Find a community, create a community, whatever, but don't try to necessarily do it on your own. And none of those things require January 1st or December 31st, 11:59 p.m.
Yeah.
And for my money, the best time to do it is 5 seconds ago, because especially if it's a health goal, don't tie it to the calendar. For me right now, I am turning the corner onto a cut, but that's because I timed my bulking in bodybuilding and my deloading with the holidays. It was absolutely intentional. And I'm sorry, moms, but I am going to be grumpy next week. I'm going to do my best. I'm speaking it to my community now, so that way you can plan for it. But I think I'll be okay with it. But it is something that I've been planning for. And I already have all my ducks are in a row. But because it's something that I've planned for, and it's something that I've done many times in the past, I'm actually looking forward to it because it's totally under my control and it's a known quantity. It's not like I'm going to resolve to lose 100 pounds and I'm the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life. That is unknown territory. You need support, but that's why 5 seconds ago is the best time to make a New Year's resolution. It could be July 11th and 5 seconds ago will remain the best time to make a quote unquote resolution.
But do you think, so you said that your feelings about it have changed.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you used to think that sort of like having the comprehensive plan was the most important, and now you think it's having the strong motivation? Is
No,
that what
no, 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 no,
changed?
no, 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 not at all. What changed is what to do on January 1st if you feel like you need to make a resolution. For my money, what to do on January 1st if you feel like you need to make a resolution isn't to give yourself this goal specifically. It is if you feel like you need to make a resolution, that could very well be because you're you're not inclined to keep a goal, or that you feel depressed about something in your life. And so instead of making something concrete, give yourself the grace of starting even smaller, but more fundamentally, the desire to just change. And then if you're going to give yourself a goal after you've cemented that desire to change, then fall back on not, oh man, I didn't get the goal. I'm a failure. Screw it. There goes the resolution. Let's check back in 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
It is that baseline of no, no, no. It's okay. I didn't meet this goal at this point that I hoped for because my resolution was change, period. How am I now going to pivot? Not, woe is me. The goal is lost. I am now a failure, which so many people fall back on because the resolution is something very concrete. It's like, again, playing the lottery. I'm going to pick these numbers. If they don't hit, I'm a loser. As opposed to, I'm going to resolve to, I'm not going to say play the lottery every day because that's bad advice. But I'm going to instead resolve to just thinking more positively about myself, or something that is more that is easier to maintain and
Mm-hmm.
isn't tied to a win-loss scenario. So before, I would
Interesting.
say I hate the idea of resolutions because they are so black and white for most people, and that it's so easy to let a slip up or a failure turn into a snowball, right? A feedback loop of negativity. But instead, to flip the script on the idea of the resolution and make the resolution just like being kind to yourself. And if you
Mm.
feel like you need to make a resolution about your health or your relationships, a lot of it comes down to, a sense of self-worth. You don't have to have a firm goal for a resolution. And for my money, giving yourself that baseline of grace and self-love gives you armor against those moments of failure as you do start to set goals in the coming year. Because then the slip ups are just data points instead of that thing that I set as the sort of like the shining beacon on a hill has crumbled. Woe is me. So that's my personal script flipping on resolutions. Is that like I in that regard have made a resolution, but I didn't do it now. I did it at like maybe September when I realized that, oh, we're living in this place. I got to do this thing. Like when the opportunity, for instance, to travel to my cousins for New Year's came up, instead of saying, oh, no, we're going to be tired, let's just rest.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, yes, good. It's going to be hard, but that means we're taking it seriously, and that's going to make it all the more worth it. This is why we came here. We got to suck it up. We can't just like fold now. I'm going to do all the driving anyway. We'll get the kids excited about seeing cousins. It's going to be great. And look what happened. We got them excited about seeing cousins. I sucked it up. We got a new car. That helped a lot, but it worked out great. So my resolution that I made to myself of giving myself the grace to be okay as my autistic self, not being great about relationships over the last decade or two, 20 years. I feel like Frank Cross. I know it's been 15 years since we last talked, but like, it's true. Like, I don't want to give people advice to do a specific thing other than what we tell them to do anyway, which is give yourself the grace to grow. Be skeptical about the things you believe in, which is exactly what I did. And I'm already reaping the benefits of it because I was skeptical about how I was treating people in my life.
Mm.
And I've gotten a lot better at it over the last couple of months, I think. And I think it's great.
I mean, I have no advice on resolutions because I feel like when I try, I don't know, like when I try, just like you said, when I try to set a goal where it's very much in that, like, I want this to happen, so I'm going to set this goal, I just consistently fail. I mean, I think every year I talk about wanting to sleep more and get to bed earlier, and it just like has not happened. And so I think, it's tricky because I think I feel similarly to you because I was thinking about it. And I feel like those sort of like, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z goals often fail. And I don't know, I don't have like super great insight into why, but I know for me, when I have been able to make change, the times that it has worked, it's not, and it's not even about the motivation. It's like a realization.
Sure.
Where I'm just like, oh, I can do things differently. And I can do it like this. And then once I understand how I can do it, I just do it. And that, like,
that's
I feel
great. Yeah.
I feel very lucky that
not everybody can do that.
No, but it feels very outside of my control because it's like, I can't realize something until I realize it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, back, like it did not come from a good place. Like in my 20s, I was much more interested in dieting and like didn't have a very good, I didn't feel great about my body. And like one of the things I was trying to do was eat like multiple smaller meals. I don't even know if that's suggested anymore. At the time, people like,
yeah, no, it totally is.
We're kind of into that. And I couldn't make it happen and I couldn't make it happen. And then one day I was just like, oh, if I split things up this way, it's this many meals. And then I did. Not that that necessarily gave me any of the benefits that I wanted it to, but like until I had that realization, like I couldn't do it. And there's nothing I specifically did to have that realization. It was just a realization.
So you
do you
feel
know
like
what I mean?
So it was like an arbitrary moment that you capitalized on. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, it's sort of, to me, it's like, you often say like you can't make yourself believe something.
Sure.
You either believe it or you don't. It either passes your, truth test or it doesn't.
Sure.
And in a similar way, like you can't understand something until you do. Like, I don't, it's very tricky. And so as far as like making actual change, I don't know how to make it happen because the only times I've been successful, it's when I've been like, oh, this is how this could work. And then I can do it. But I didn't like do something to have that realization. My brain just did it outside of whatever I was purposefully trying to do,
Sure.
And then it happened. So like, that's not helpful. It's not helpful for me. It's not helpful for anybody else. But as far as like, it's not really thinking about change, but I think, so I worked with a career coach who is amazing. Her name is Laura Sims, and her whole program is called Your Career Homecoming. Can't recommend it more highly, particularly if you don't really know what you want to do.
And she has a very admirably skeptical approach.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in grace to oneself and building community is kind of like everything we talk about.
And so she has a lot of like amazing systems, which I won't talk about because they're hers. But I think it's okay to say one thing she does do. So one amazing thing about her program is after you do it, there's a group for people who have graduated from the program that you can just stay in forever for support, which is kind of wild. And there's an online group and they'll sort of post things to think about. And one thing they will post is like, what is your intention for the week? And I struggled with that a little bit at the beginning.
Sure.
Because it is not a goal. Like the intention for the week is not that I am going to get to bed at 11:30 every night.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always have one. And usually it takes me until about Thursday to realize what my intention for the week is. But I
Okay.
like the post because it actually makes me think about it. And to me, what has been helpful about that framing is that I feel like an intention is not what you're going to accomplish.
Right.
But it's like how you're going to show up.
Love it.
And to me, that is helpful because I can't, like, for a million reasons, like, because life throws you curveballs, because like things happen that you can't control. You often can't control the outcome of your actions.
Yeah.
But I feel like, at least to me, it's been easier to think about how I'm going to show up to whatever happens.
Yes.
And I think like a little bit closer to what you were saying about motivation, it makes me think about what I actually need.
Okay.
For the week.
Sure.
You know, so sometimes that's like, I mean, it sounds like really cheesy sometimes, but sometimes it is, I am like on that sort of shorter time frame. Like there are weeks where I'm just like, oh my God, I just have to take it easy on myself. Like I just have to realize that like last week was really hard. And this week I just need to show up and like not have expectations of myself. I just need to take it easy.
Sure.
Some weeks it's like, it's awful, but like I have to be present and I have to have hard conversations. It's going to be a week where like I have to do the hard thing and I just need to like gird up my loins and be like ready for the hard thing. But thinking about it, it's sort of, to me, the thing about showing up is that it kind of like gets you ready for what you have to face. It doesn't necessarily tell you what you're going to do, but it sort of gets you in the game, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So that has been more helpful. And I think even sort of like having it as a practice has been helpful in, I think it's like a good practice to have because what it does, which to me is like different than a resolution.
Sure.
Is it like makes you check in and think about what you really need. And what you really need sometimes gets you towards a big goal.
Yes.
And like what you really need sometimes just like gets you through the day.
Which gives you the opportunity to get the goal in the future. That's the problem that a lot of people have is it's like this all or nothing mentality. And it made me think of like, you know, a student long ago had a they had a weight loss goal and this was early on in my teaching career. They had a weight loss goal and they were so excited to come in and we were doing well. And they literally, they like randomly, they trip and fall down the stairs and they break their leg. The healing process took so long and they got so depressed about not reaching their goal instead of trying to pivot, and which I totally understand how hard it can be, trying to pivot and give yourself another goal while you're healing that can help you towards your ultimate goal of being more physically fit and healthy. The broken leg basically just like completely, and I maybe permanently derailed their ideal of being more physically fit and more mobile. But I understood why they stopped returning my calls. They just got so depressed about their situation. And it's so sad, but it's so common. That's why I want, if anybody asks about resolutions ever, I'm going to default to like 5 seconds ago, you should start have given yourself the grace to make mistakes and fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about when Reader started doing basketball, like the wonderful Michael Jordan quote about all the times he was trusted with making the game-winning shot and missing. All those times his team needed him to make free throws to stay in the game, and he missed them. All the times he screwed up. That's what he credits with his success. Just like any great salesman will credit all the no's they've received. It's not the big wins. It's the times they got the no's, because those no's helped armor them, but also helped teach them different approaches, helped them appreciate the things they did well or badly. It's absolutely critical that we make mistakes. And the problem with resolutions is that they have a tendency to set you up in a really negative way. That when they don't happen, you get depressed because it was your resolution. It's like you get one resolution or some nonsense. It could be something as simple as, before you respond when you get stressed out, giving yourself 5 seconds of silence. Anything. Because it'll all feed into that overarching goal of self-improvement. Do you think you're going to make better decisions? Sure. Do you think that some of those decisions might have to do with your desire to be okay with just going to the gym and doing something instead of doing the workout, which is my big problem that I had to get over, instead of doing the workout that your program, your mesocycle required you to do? You couldn't do that one, so it was all is lost. Yeah, it's hard being like ADHD and wanting to get into bodybuilding, because you want to do all the things exactly to a T, and life doesn't work that way. So yeah, simple. Grace, fail forward, one step at a time. Let the goal, the specifics of the goals maybe go in the beginning, and just start with anything. Do anything better than you did yesterday. But do it better by a little bit every day in a way that helps bolster the community around you, and you will encourage yourself to do greater and greater things that you might not have considered possible.
Well, I'm curious, is there anything you're thinking about for 2025? I mean, I know you have your fitness thing, and so you're doing something for that, but I think that is very specifically not like a big goal for the year. It was just sort of part of something you were already doing. So is there stuff you're thinking about for the new year?
I mean, on the writing front, you've heard me talking more and more about wanting to do fiction.
And books.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to script writing exclusively, because I have complete control over it. And I can make the chapter length whatever I want. In a sense, it feeds into my ADHD better than screenwriting does, because it doesn't require that I be social. It doesn't require that I have social skills, even though I'm working on improving those every day. A career isn't dependent on them, because I don't know if you guys don't know this, but the filmmaking community can at times feel like you're in high school. I did not necessarily have the most positive high school experience. I would love to be able to be a writer professionally in a way that does not require me to be that out and networking oriented all the time. As far as what provides the end result. Obviously, once I write a book, I have to network. But the production of the product doesn't also require that.
True.
So it takes that pressure off. For me, it just feels like it might be a better fit. Not like I begrudge anything I ever did. Like old me, in a stoic sense, old me would have been very upset at like what I would perceive to be like a sunk cost situation. Right? Like all the time that I've spent, it was all for nothing. It wasn't at all. I met wonderful people. I learned so much about storytelling. I learned my voice. I learned my genre. I learned what kind of characters resonate with me. I learned so much that I like, this is coming from a place of wisdom, not regret or consolation. This is a tactical decision that I'm making based on me increasingly knowing myself as a person, but also still knowing that I really am a damn fine storyteller and the world needs my voice. So I owe it to myself to pivot. And because of that, I am practicing what I've been talking about. Like, I've already had this urge to grow. And so short-term feeding into long-term goals, I'm still going to write scripts. Like, I have screenplays that I'm going to get to before I get to the fiction. We've already talked about this. And they're two of, I think, what will be your favorite that I've ever done. But at the same time, I'm not afraid to pivot because it still feeds into my overarching goal. So I'm really excited about the change. And it's part of something that's already been going on with me for a couple of years now. So this isn't in a sense, this isn't a resolution. This is just me talking about something that I already have decided that I would do, but I'm just going to continue to do. Like, I don't have, in that respect, any New Year's resolutions. Because I already have a fitness journey. I already have a writer's journey. I already have a parenting journey. I don't need to change what I'm doing. If anything, maybe this is a moment where I celebrate the fact that I'm on top of my shit.
Yeah, I don't have like a resolution for sure. You know, I was thinking, because this past year was just so intense.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know,
as far as Valkai would say, oh my glob.
The move, switching jobs, you getting your diagnosis, the kids changing all the activities they're doing. I mean, just like
it's the week before Christmas. Let's buy a car.
Let's get a car. Let's do so.
It was almost comical. When you were like, yeah, we should do this. I'm like, oh, all right, we're going to do this. And I love our new car. Our new car is for us the perfect road trip machine.
Yeah. But one thing that I think helped make the year easier is that I knew it was going to be a year of huge transition and change.
Sure.
So that really, really helped.
Yes.
And
yes, that is exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
You set yourself up for success knowing that things were going to be hard. So when things were hard, you weren't saying to yourself, oh man, why are things so hard? You're like, oh, this is the thing that we were already prepared for. What do we do to compensate? And we did that so many times this year. Oh my gosh.
And I think, like, I just knew going into it, I was like, this is going to be a year. And I didn't know how much of a year it was going to be.
Oh no, it definitely did not disappoint.
But I knew it was going to be a year, and I knew we just had to do it. And that helped.
I mean, at the beginning of this year, I mean, and listeners will know, at the beginning of this past year, we didn't know we were going to move. We didn't know that any of this was going to happen.
Well, I was pretty certain we were going to move, but not at the very beginning.
We
but
were going to move. We didn't know the timing of anything. We didn't know any of the specifics.
Yeah, for sure.
But here we go. But maybe what we did do is we spoke out into our relationship. Hey, spouse, I think this is the year we gotta move.
Yeah.
Financially, it makes sense. We got to do it before the boys get to a certain age. Our parents require it. It's like, we got to work this out. Let's start this process. And then we gave ourselves as a couple and each other and individuals the grace to fail forward, the grace to try things. We tried a city. It didn't work out. We tried another city. It worked out. Really big decisions. I guess in retrospect, maybe implementing what we were talking about today without even thinking it. But it's a process that clearly works. So,
but
man,
when we were talking about doing this topic, I had a couple weeks to think about it.
Okay.
And I feel like it was really helpful because I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't have a fucking clue what the deal for 2025.
You salty mommy.
We give a warning. So,
Oh, I mean, but that's an F.
but
I mean,
I
the
don't.
first F-bomb of 2025, I guess we should start it early.
Yeah. But I really did. I was like, I don't know. Like, I knew what the gist of last year was going to be.
Uh-huh.
And when I started thinking about it, it's like, I don't even, what is 2025? Who knows? But I think, and so I was pondering that, and then kind of in that mode of realization.
Yeah.
I think 2025 for me, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a cleanup year. We
Interesting.
did so much.
Sure.
And
I see
now
that. Yeah.
right? So I'm like, there's
Hey,
just
what did I say I'm going to be doing this week? I'm
picking up,
setting a really broad goal. This is my intentionality. I'm just going to pick things. So when I'm walking through the house this week, at the front of my forehead, I'm going to feel tidy. And so if I'm walking past something, I'm going to tidy it up. We let it go through the holidays because we had so much else going on. But now that we don't, it's time to make sure that we, get rid of the loose ends.
Yeah, but I mean, there was, we just did so much that
Yeah.
I
We
like,
couldn't get mad at ourselves for having the house be a bit messy. And I mean,
but it's like,
and like the ceiling is still off in the foyer because the leak is like, there was no reason to make it a priority, but now we can. And I love that we're on the same mind. We're in the same mindset about
but
this.
yeah, but I mean, just on so many things. And I think if I made,
what else do you feel the urge to clean up? Like when you say that, what do you mean?
Well, like, so, one thing, because I was thinking about it and I'm like, a whole year? And then I thought about 2020, last year, 2024.
Sure.
And I think if I made any mistake, I was like, we're moving. It's going to be really hard. And it's going to be like 3 months of hard. And then we're going to be set. And that was wrong. Like, that was so wrong.
You're off by, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. So and that was like
that is naive. Yeah.
And that was kind of based on past moves.
Sure.
But it just didn't happen. And so I sort of feel like for 2025, I'm like, do I really need a whole year to clean up? And I sort of am like, yeah. And if somehow it feels like we get past that. And so I think like in 2024, I'm like, it's going to be wild for 3 months. And then we're sort of going to be settled. And then we can, really work on making community and doing this and doing that. And, and so towards the end, I think I had some periods where I'm like, we're not moved in yet. I mean, we are moved in, but like art isn't up and these other things I care about aren't done. And if I had any bad moments, it was kind of because that expectation wasn't met. And so I sort of feel like just let's
you out resolutioned yourself.
Yeah. And so I sort of feel like for 2025, it's just going to be a year of like picking up all the pieces we couldn't deal with. Like, and maybe it won't take 12 months, but like if it does, that's okay. And that is everything from like getting the final boxes unpacked, figuring out what the hell we're going to do with our basement, finally getting art on the walls. I mean, your mom did an amazing job, like getting the boys' room set up, but I feel like we have a lot more organization we could do there to like make them even better for them.
Yeah.
But it's also like setting the doctor's appointments we didn't have time to make, getting the kids in to see specialists they haven't been able to see. For the podcasts, I had like tons of goals of people I wanted to reach out to and things I wanted to get set before the end of the year. And like, we got a couple interviews in, which was amazing, but like nowhere close to what I had hoped to do. And maybe that doesn't sound like cleanup, but to me, it's really like all the pieces of things that I had sort of like partway in action.
Yeah.
That are still just like pieces out in the universe.
Well, we had to deprioritize a bunch because we had a lot of other things come up. And then you got a job, which is so good, but that took some time away. So it isn't like it's a bad thing that we had to put a pin in a bunch of things. But I agree. Like, I can't wait to get the living room and sunroom set up so the bar can feel like a bar.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get the reading nook set up. I can't wait to get exercise tiles down for you in the basement. Like, there's so many fun things that also that disguise the work, because then you're doing the work towards this other goal. Like, oh, I'm going to get this space situated so we can do this cool thing with the space once it's situated. Not, I just got to get the space situated because I gotta, like we're lucky in that regard that the goals are like that the cleanup and organization part is in many cases in the house a smaller goal in service of a larger set of goals.
Yeah, but I think as an intention, it feels it feels very true, because it's just kind of like where we are.
Yeah.
And it's not particularly sexy, but I think it's just like
it's what we're going to do.
It's what at least for me, it's what I need to do. And who knows, maybe I'll get to the end and be like, I thought I was going to get cleaned up in 12 months.
Oh boy, howdy. No, I think no. Now,
but
no, I think that now that we have done so many things that we needed to do in the first couple of months, we can now take time to schedule these things. And I think that's what it comes down to, is we were letting all the other things that we needed to do for the house and getting the boys moved in and starting activities and stuff take the front seat. But now that we have those things set, I think it'd be good of us to sit down and say, okay, like every weekend, both days, we're going to spend like half an hour each day doing this thing in service of this house goal. And I think if we do that, then it won't be maybe necessarily even as fast as we want, but at the very least, we'll have an hour every week broken up very easily. That will enable us to move the needle. And then before we know it, we're going to be so much farther along than we expected. But we're just going to do the Kaizen approach. So I'm going to practice what I preach with this. So yeah. I've already scheduled that.
But I mean, I think it's sort of like, sort of thinking about the intention and how one shows up. Yeah. We pushed forward so much last year. And I'm just like, I don't think this is going to be, I mean, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but like, I don't think this is going to be a year of pushing forward. I think this is going to be a year of getting settled.
Exploration.
But for me, it's like kind of, yeah, I think I just need a year to let things settle. And that feels helpful to know. That feels like really helpful to know.
I'm so proud of us.
In the big scheme of things. Yeah. So I think that's all we got.
You're the best.
Aw, love you tons.
Love you, moms.
All right. That's where we'll wrap it up. If all goes well, we're going to have some cool interviews coming up, and I have some interesting ideas for the next couple of episodes. And we need to thank Jonathan Zalbin and First Frame Music for the music for this podcast.
And that wraps up this 2025 inaugural episode of The Family Skeptical, where nothing is sacred except for our kids. All right, on to the next things. Let me stop this. Okay.